Hi, everyone. My name is Erin, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am the Student Recruitment Officer at the UBC Vancouver campus. I'd like to acknowledge that the land that UBC has built its Vancouver campus on, which we work, learn, connect, and innovate, is the unceded ancestral and traditional territory of the Musqueam peoples. And I'd like to start off today by introducing my colleague, Kyle.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Kyle Watson. I'm an engineering advisor from UBC's Okanagan campus. My pronouns are he, him. UBC's Okanagan campus is situated in the unceded ancestral and traditional territory of the Silt Okanagan Nation and their peoples. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of the lands that you are joining us from today. So UBC Engineering offers programs across both campuses, the Vancouver campus as well as the Okanagan campus located in Kelowna, BC. Let's take a closer look at what you need to know before you start your application. So it's important to know and understand that there's different types of post-secondary degrees that are related to engineering. You might find yourself wanting to join a trade right off the bat. This could be in something related to automotive or electrician, carpenter. In that trade, it could be taking you up to 4 years. You are often supplemented with some technical training or apprenticeships. You could also be maybe pursuing an engineering technologist diploma. Those are typically going to take 2 years in length. These avenues are going to provide a very good background in the practical skills of engineering. However, you will typically need to begin at UBC's first-year program if you end up wanting to pursue a bachelor's degree. You might not always get credit for that full time spent. When you're looking at UBC's Bachelor of Applied Science or an accredited engineering degree, that's going to typically set you up to become an engineering training and eventually a professional engineer. We're looking at those licensures. So if you're looking for the more direct, fastest, most efficient pathway to become, say, a professional engineer or go beyond that designation, usually a bachelor's degree is going to be the best way to do that. And if you become a UBC engineer and you earn that degree, it doesn't necessarily just stop there for you. A lot of our graduate students do go direct into the workforce and get that EIT licensure right off the bat. A lot of students want to pursue graduate studies. Maybe they want to get their master's degree in engineering, or maybe they eventually want to get a PhD in civil engineering and become a professor someday, or really dive into research. The avenues are open there for you with that UBC engineering degree. Engineering is one of the few professional designations that you can advance upon, but a lot of people don't always know what's the difference between engineering versus science. Sorry, Aaron, I'm jumping back and forth there. So it's very common. This is very, very common for grade 12 high school students, transfer students coming from other post-secondary. They still don't know that difference between science and engineering, and that's okay. It's very common. Scientists and engineers have different goals. That might be a good way to look at it. Scientists seek to describe and understand the natural world, where engineers typically consider various criteria and constraints in order to design solutions to problems. Maybe they're looking to find needs and wants that make the world better. This includes our technology, our environment, and medicine. Engineers are typically trying to solve that problem. So life, natural physics, physical sciences focus on attaining fundamental knowledge about a subject through empirical and often quantitative methods. An engineer's goal is going to be to discover new scientific principles by observing phenomena, but rather to apply the principles attained through scientific research to solve real-world problems. Engineers are creating solutions for real-world problems. Let's take a closer look at how you apply to UBC.
Perfect. Thanks so much for the introduction, Kyle. So now we're going to jump into a little bit about understanding admission. So what does it take to be admitted to UBC Engineering? What are some of those different pathways available to you? So there are several different routes that students can enter UBC Engineering. The most common way, and the one that we're going to focus on today, is direct entry to UBC. So that means any high school student applying directly to our Bachelor of Applied Science degree, which is our engineering program. There's a couple other ways that I do want to mention quickly in case this applies to anyone that is watching today. So we do have some university transfer routes that are available. One of those is the engineering transfer program with 9 different partner institutions throughout BC, where you can actually go to one of our partner institutions, start your entire first year engineering program, and then transfer directly into the second year at either the Vancouver or the Okanagan campus. So that's a great option if you want to start at a smaller school, if you are not sure if you're going to meet all of the competitive requirements for UBC, that's also an option to consider. So it's just kind of a great second option to keep in the back of your mind if you're not sure about starting straight at UBC. You can also transfer from other programs. If you do one of those technology diplomas that Kyle mentioned initially, we do have a bridging program for some specific streams through a couple of colleges to the Vancouver or Okanagan campus. So that is an option as well. For any Indigenous students that may be joining us today, we also have the Aboriginal admission policy. So we do encourage you to self-identify on the application if you are Indigenous, as well as the Indigenous Transfer Partnership with Langara, which allows you to start at Langara, complete all of the first year courses, as well as if you're missing any prerequisite courses before actually coming straight to the second year of UBC Engineering. And then finally, I just want to mention, in case there are any international students watching today, that we do have Vantage College, which allows students to start with Vantage in engineering. But if you're not quite meeting the English language competency requirements that we have at UBC, then you can kind of gain the rest of the English requirements that we need throughout your first year. You'll actually spend time at the Vancouver and Okanagan campus in that program before coming into your second year. So those are just some of the different admission routes into UBC Engineering. But again, we're going to highlight today primarily the direct entry to UBC, which is coming directly from high school. So the other thing I want to mention is application deadlines. So that is obviously important to make sure that you are applying by the deadline so that you can even be considered. So if you are currently in grade 12, these dates will apply to you. If you're not in grade 12 yet, then when you get to grade 12, you can consider these dates. Or for anyone that may be taking a gap year after university, if you're not ready to apply yet, basically in the kind of year before you'll start in that September. That's what these dates kind of apply to. So if you are ready to start this coming September, the deadline to apply will be this December 1st. For anyone to be considered for first round offer deadline, or for post-secondary transfer students to be considered based on their interim transcripts. We highlight December 1st because for most students, this is a great time to apply by. You can be considered for a first round offer. You can also be considered for scholarships, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. The final deadline to apply is January 15th. So do make sure that if you are planning to apply at all, you must submit that application by January 15th. Now, in addition to meeting UBC's language requirement that I mentioned already, there are some general requirements that all students need to meet, and that includes graduating from high school, as well as a recommendation to take at least 6 grade 12 level courses. Now, the admission requirements are a little bit different at the Okanagan versus the Vancouver campus. So right now I'm talking specifically about the Okanagan campus admission to the Bachelor of Applied Science degree, which again is our engineering degree. What we'll look at is kind of a checklist just to make sure that you have these required courses so that then we can assess you for admission. We're specifically looking that students have completed English 12, Pre-Calculus 12, Chemistry 12, and Physics 12. Now, if you are outside of BC joining us today, you can find your specific requirements at that link on the screen. But basically, we're looking for the grade 12 level of those subjects that I just mentioned. At the Vancouver campus, the requirements are very similar. However, there is an additional general requirement to meet a minimum of 70% in grade 11 or grade 12 English. And there are some degree-specific requirements that are a little bit different. Now, again, this is specific to students currently studying in BC on the screen. If you are not in BC, I do encourage you to check out the requirements page because yours may be a little bit different. For students currently in BC, we are looking to see that students have completed English 12, a second language at the grade 11 level, Pre-Calculus 11, English 12, pre-calculus 12, chemistry 12, and physics 12. Now, there is a little asterisk besides Chem 12 and Physics 12, and that is to say that if you are only able to complete one of Chemistry 12 or Physics 12, we do still encourage you to apply, and you can still be admitted to our program if you're only able to fit one of those into your grade 12 year. So what do we actually kind of look for when you are applying? Again, I see a few questions coming in of if you have specific requirements, if you're doing the IB diploma or things like that, do check out that website. It's all listed on there of those specific courses required, but you'll see it's generally going to be the same. So we're looking for those same types of courses, basically. When we are looking for your application, we're going to consider a whole bunch of different things. So we're looking at those past courses that I mentioned just kind of as a checklist to see have you or will you be completing these courses by the end of your grade 12 year. So you don't need to have it completed before you apply, but simply as long as you will be completing it by the end of your grade 12 year. And then we move on to really assessing your full application. So this is where we're going to look at what other courses did you take? Did you take a breadth of subjects by being able to take some arts courses or some different options courses or things like that? Did you take any kind of advanced courses? So did you take IB? Did you take AP? Did you take any honors courses? And did you take other courses specific to science? So did you really focus on your science courses? These are all things that none of these are requirements, but simply things that admissions will consider when assessing your application. So it's good to kind of keep that in mind, that it's not one specific student we're looking for, but it's actually a whole kind of breadth of your experiences that we'll be looking for. That kind of breadth of experience is also showcased in the personal profile as well. So when we're actually assessing you for admission, we're going to look at kind of three main areas. We're looking at your personal profile, which is going to be your short essay questions that you'll answer. They are really meant to focus on what your experiences have been outside of the classroom. So have you been involved in things? And it's not just what have you been involved in, but how have those experiences impacted who you are as a student? We're also going to look at your overall academic average. That's going to be all grade 11 and grade 12 level academic courses that you've taken or will be taking. And we're going to look at your core academic average. That's going to be any grade 11 or grade 12 level courses for engineering in the subject categories related to language arts, math, and science. So those three components are really what we're looking at in terms of admission. And you basically, as Kyle's going to show you in a minute, you're going to put all of this information into your application, and we'll be able to assess you based on everything that you do provide. So I mentioned a little bit about scholarships already, and the one main reason that we encourage you to apply by December 1st is so that you can be considered for scholarships. There are many merit-based awards that will allow you to be considered for as long as you've applied by December 1st and indicated that you're interested in these merit-based awards on the application. One of those is the Presidential Scholars Award. We also have some engineering specific awards that you can be considered for as well. Now, those are all merit-based, so those are simply based on your admission profiles. We're looking at how you're being admitted. There are also financial need-based scholarships, and so those are scholarships where you need to submit an additional application in order to be considered. These are going to look at your merit, so your admission criteria as well, but also looking at, are you in need of financial assistance? And so UBC tries to support students where we can. The Centennial Scholar Entrance Award is for anyone to apply to that is a Canadian student. The Beyond Tomorrow Scholar Award is for Black Canadian students, and we also have an Indigenous Student Award for students coming specifically into engineering. Now, if you're an international student watching, there's also lots of international student awards as well. Again, you can check out the full list of those on our website. So before I move on, I do want to iterate that, scholarships are free money. Get that free money while you can. We really encourage you to apply to external scholarships as well. So great keywords to search would be things like engineering, STEM, technology, tech. And for any young women watching today, there are some specific awards for women in engineering, women in STEM. If you are an Indigenous student, there are specific awards for Indigenous students entering engineering and STEM as well. So really do some searches on websites. Scholarships Canada is one that you may already be familiar with. That's an easy place to go and search for scholarships. But there are tons of external scholarships out there that are offered outside of UBC that you're able to apply to and get some free money. So why not go after that money that's available to you? I'll pass it back over to Kyle, who's going to walk you through the application now.
Thanks so much, Erin. There's so much money left on the table. They say hundreds of thousands of dollars every year of private corporations or organizations that just want to give that money away, but students just don't apply. So I encourage you to reach out, put that effort in. If you apply to 5 or 10, odds are you're going to be rewarded for hopefully at least one of those. So you're asking a lot of questions coming in through the chat here, specific admission requirements or courses for consideration. The best place to get started on a lot of that information is our main prospective student website, you.ubc.ca. From here, you can take a closer look at programs offered if you want to dive deeper into the individual programs for engineering on each of the campuses. But if you want to take a look at the admissions dropdown, there's a dates and deadlines page that highlights every single date. That takes you through the application deadline, when you start to hear back, what you need to start doing next. There's a first year cost calculator. You can take a closer look at internal or external scholarships. This site is such a great jumping off point for all of the questions that you have. If you have a very detailed, specific question unique to you that should be asked to an admissions counselor or an admissions advisor, there's a contact page to submit that as well. And a great place to stay connected with UBC when you have these application questions. This is also where you're going to go to begin your application. You'll see on the right upper hand side of your screen or device that'll have that nice bright red button to begin your application journey for UBC. When you're applying to UBC, our biggest advice for you is to start early. Take your time. If you're shooting for that December 1st deadline to automatically be considered for scholarships and first round offers, start early. Take your time. Our application is very similar to, say, a Microsoft Word document. You can save it and come back to it a little bit later. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. So give yourself time to complete that. Be sure to tell us your full academic history, be accurate. You definitely want to use an email address that you check. UBC is no different from any other university out there in Canada and beyond. Our favorite way to communicate with our students and prospective students is through email. So get in the habit of checking that email. Don't go crazy checking it multiple times a day, but definitely check it a couple times a week. After you submit an application, if we need to reach out to you and there's more to do, you're going to be notified through email. So definitely make sure you're tracking that and mark down your UBC student number. If you end up applying to more than one university, you're going to get more than one student number given to you, and that is unique to that particular institution. So you're going to get a UBC number. Take note of that, because if you say want to fill a contact form to admissions to ask them a question, they'll probably ask for your UBC student number, and you'll want to know where to find it from there. So let's take a closer look at what the application is going to look like. When you begin that application journey, you're going to be kicked over to or redirected to what's called Education Planner BC. Should look something like this on your screen here. Nice, easy, 3 steps. Everything's color-coded to walk you through to complete your common applicant profile. This is going to be pretty standard. You're going to see a screen that might look like this here, where you're going to put in general information. So this could be your name, date of birth, citizenship, contact info, again, your preferred email address that you are going to be following. But this stuff is very basic, similar to maybe an app subscription that you might have recently signed up for. You'll advance along here to start identifying previous institutions of study. So this is going to include your high school. This include any other post-secondary institutions you might be currently attending or haven't attended in the past. You have to include transcripts from all of your programs or institutions of study, and this is going to be where to do so. Just follow the prompts. Everything's quite straightforward, and following the direction there. And there's even contact information for help to reach out to Education Planner BC directly if you were, say, experiencing an issue with uploading a document. Second part, you're going to be also identifying additional information related to academic history, adding additional schools, selecting possibly where the country of the institution was, or the province, or the school. This is going to be what's determining what's asked of you in terms of admission requirements for courses. Aaron was previously referencing BC courses. It could be, we want to make sure if you studied in, say, Ontario, we're looking at specific Ontario courses from there. You're also going to be submitting additional information of when you started, when you ended, if you're still attending, and including right from there, you can see an example referencing an IB diploma, for example. You could also be referencing AP courses. It's quite straightforward. Take your time, follow the steps. Don't leave it to the last minute to be cramming this in the night before. If you are a BC or an Ontario student, you are going to be able to provide your PEN or your OUAC number, so UBC can pull your transcripts directly. If you're not and you're studying from another province, just follow the prompts to make sure that either you will be submitting transcripts or you're providing UBC permission to access your transcripts. Once you've completed all three of these common sections, you'll then be able to start applying and select UBC specifically. So this here technically could be the portal to applications to multiple institutions at UBC. The next steps thereafter are going to be now where you're specifically choosing UBC. So the admission category is going to be based on your previous institutions listed. We could be looking at only your high school transcripts, or if you studied at high school and post-secondary, we could be looking at a combination of both of those. Maybe if you've completed enough post-secondary credits, we might only be looking at your post-secondary. Again, all that information is highlighted on our you.ubc.ca site to determine how you're going to be admitted. Just make sure that you're following all of the information honestly and accurately when completing your application. The next step when you're selecting your program, this is typically where we see a lot of our students maybe get mixed up, and it's very common. So you're going to be actually given two choices. At UBC, we're very proud of the fact we're one application, one degree, two world-class campuses to choose from. You actually also get to choose two choices of your degree to study when applying. When you're applying to UBC Engineering, though, you're applying for a Bachelor of Applied Science. You're not going to see Bachelor in Engineering. Our degree in engineering is called the Bachelor of Applied Science. So let's say your first choice is going to be the UBC Okanagan campus, and you want to study engineering. This example is shown on the screen. You've selected your campus as UBC Okanagan, selected your intended start date, and you're choosing the Bachelor of Applied Science. If your second choice is going to be UBC Vancouver, also engineering, you would be choosing that Bachelor of Applied Science again. We really encourage our students to choose the campus they want to finish on. If your heart is set on the Vancouver campus and you want to study engineering, you might choose UBC Vancouver's campus, Bachelor of Applied Science as your first choice, and maybe your second choice is going to be still the UBC Vancouver campus and the Bachelor of Science as a secondary degree. Yes, you can choose two different degrees. Yes, you can choose two different campuses. That's the benefit of having two choices to submit on your application. But it is important to list your choice one as your preferred choice. UBC is going to evaluate choice one. Admissions will not take a look at choice two until you have been deemed non-admissible for choice one. So make sure you order those accordingly based on your preference. There's additional information to put down here for demographic information. Some of it may be prompted as required to put through, some may be optional, but fill your profile and application out as you are comfortable to advance. Like Aaron mentioned, you may not know why you're putting it down, but it could be to your benefit. It could be for additional scholarships, it could be for additional admission pathways. Just fill out that application as accurately as you can through your comfort levels. The next part is a really exciting part and a fun part here, your personal profile. So at UBC, we're looking at two things. Yes, we're looking at your academic history, but we're also looking at a personal profile. So a student with very strong academic history, but maybe not quite as strong as a personal profile, that can balance out and you can still be admissible, or vice versa, with a very strong personal profile and still a strong academic background, but maybe not quite as strong as others, that can still get you in. Personal profile, you are telling your own story, something apart from your transcripts. This is something you're definitely going to want to take your time on. You can use friends and parents to consult with to come up with a nice topic to tell a compelling story, but this is your chance to set yourself apart. We recommend writing about, sorry, I was just hearing something from, might have been just some background info from Dale. I thought we had a question coming through. When you're submitting a personal profile, you want to choose a topic that's engaging and you really want to tell a what, a why, and a how. So describe what's happened, how it's affected you, and why it's going to change moving forward, or how it's going to best prepare you for your studies in engineering at UBC. Maybe it's an adversity you overcame, or maybe it's the passion you've had for engineering since childhood and you're going to be the first one to attend a university in your family. Whatever it may be, you want to tell that engaging story, but take your time on it because UBC is going to be going through that. It's very likely 3 or more admissions counselors are going to be reading that personal profile and reviewing it. We take the time to review it. You should definitely take the time when composing that personal profile. The last two parts of the application include a spot to indicate if you would like to be considered for Presidential Scholars Award, which is available to Canadian students applying for December 1st. There might be some more information about applying to housing there. We do have a first-year housing guarantee. If you apply by the deadline for housing and accept your offer to UBC, those two dates are a bit unique. For the Vancouver campus, it's likely going to be accepting that offer by May 1st. For the Okanagan campus, you might have until June 1st. But follow all of the prompts through this application to make sure you're completing your application to the fullest and keeping all of your options open as you're moving forward. Once you have reviewed everything carefully and you are ready to submit, please do so, and then continue to follow that email, follow the dates and deadlines outlines to make sure you're staying on track. First round offers, if you apply by that December 1st, the dates and deadlines page outlines when you might start hearing. Maybe it's as early as February, but no news is good news. If you don't hear right away in, say, April, it's very normal for students to be hearing from April through into May, even into June. We even see students receiving offers to UBC as late as July or even August. No news is still good news until you receive that notification that you've not been accepted. You're still in consideration due to UBC's rolling admissions process. I'm going to kick it back over to Erin to take a closer look at some of these upcoming dates.
Perfect. Thanks so much for walking us through that application, Kyle. So once you do submit your application, as Kyle mentioned, you're going to receive an email within about several weeks regarding what documents you may need to submit, the deadlines to submit those documents. For most students, this will be your high school transcripts potentially. But if anything else is required, it'll all be listed in that email. So again, you don't necessarily need to, you may not need to provide any documents in the application itself. It may all be requested afterwards. There may be some information that's requested from you. It really depends on your academic history and where you're currently studying. So as Kyle mentioned, follow all of the prompts. But for most students, you're not going to be submitting any documents until after you've submitted that application, when you get an email from UBC indicating when those deadlines are. As Kyle mentioned, there is the spot to put your personal education number for BC students or the OUAC number for Ontario students, where UBC will be able to pull those documents on your behalf. So you may not even need to submit documents at any point. What you see here is a list of the kind of timeline. So again, December 1st is that deadline to apply to be considered for first round offers, which is an earlier offer of admission, and to be considered for scholarships. January 15th is that final deadline to apply. Typically, when we require transcripts from students, for most students, we'll request that those are sent in February to March timeline. Again, check your email though for your specific date because it may be different for you depending on what your academic history is. For most students, it's going to be May 1st for the deadline to accept their offer of admission. However, if you are applying to the Okanagan campus, it may be June 1st, or it may be later if you are given an offer of admission later than that. But you can kind of expect to plan to accept your offer by May 1st, again, or whatever deadlines are outlined in your offer letter. The deadline to apply for housing for both campuses is May 1st in order to be guaranteed an offer for housing. So do check on that. We have some really great housing options at UBC. And so as long as you're applying to housing, even if you don't have an offer yet, you can still apply to housing in order to be guaranteed a space in residence for those students coming directly from high school into your first year. After you've kind of accepted your offer, the next steps for you would then be to kind of register in your courses, which you'll get lots more information about at that point in time. And that's typically kind of June to July is when you'll start to register in courses, somewhere in there. And then the next kind of big step really is to show up to campus. So typically September, and that's what we call Imagine UBC or Create, which is our orientation programs. There's other options we have as well. So Jumpstart is a really great orientation program that you'll get lots more information about, but I just really wanted to highlight some of those kind of like really specific dates of what that timeline will look like for you right from now all the way until next September. So quickly, before we wrap up this presentation, I just want to mention a little bit more about the UBC Engineering program and everything that you have to look forward to once you apply or once you may be admitted. So as a reminder, you'll start in our foundational first year program before selecting your engineering discipline to continue on to in second year. Later in your degree, you can customize your studies by choosing to pursue a minor or a dual degree. Neither of these are required, but are just another option for you to have a secondary area of focus if it's something you're interested in. We also have a fantastic co-op program at both campuses where you can gain up to 20 months of paid work experience throughout your degree. It will extend your degree by a year, but as I said, you'll get about 20 months of paid work experience within that time. We also have lots of opportunities to go abroad. So if you want to study abroad, if you want to work abroad, if you want to research abroad, we have opportunities for you to really get some international experience in as a student. Now, all of our programs from the very start will expose you to hands-on design projects where you work in teams with other first-year students. You'll continue in many of these courses year after year to continue to build on those project-based team learning experiences, which will culminate in your final year with your capstone design project. That's where you'll work with peers and industry partners to solve real-life problems. And many of our students even secure jobs out of being part of those capstone projects. So it's really cool to get to see all of the students working on these things that are very realistic and things that could actually like go into industry or could be produced, or designing new things that you've never seen before. And then a lot of them actually go on to work for the companies that they do that project with. So you're able to help you kind of get some of that experience before you even graduate. We also have a lot of research opportunities. So if research is something you're interested, again, this is not a requirement, but just a way to further expand your interests and to further pursue those interests. So you may consider research. We have funding so that you can get paid for research experience, or you can always do it on your own. We have opportunities like the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Club, which helps connect students with research opportunities, like their name says, on campus. Within engineering, we also have a lot of amazing ways to foster community. So we have engineering student design teams. We have more than 30 at the Vancouver campus, and we have many different teams and networks to connect with at the Okanagan campus that are engineering specific, and that will allow you to really get some of that hands-on engineering experience outside of the classroom. We also have other clubs like Women in Engineering, Gears and Queers, the National Society for Black Engineers, which are really community ways to find your community within engineering and to kind of really focus on that community, which is always what I hear from our students, that their favorite part of UBC Engineering is the community that we offer. Finally, we have over 400 campus-wide clubs, so that's always a way to get connected with other students across campus and get involved in anything else you might be interested in, whether that's something related to dance or volunteering or the outdoors club or anything else you might be interested in. You can meet others with those same interests at UBC. All right, so that's kind of a wrap up of our presentation itself. I know you have lots of questions and we will spend some time answering some of those questions. But think about if you're in grade 12 right now, or if you're planning to come to UBC for this coming September, think about what engineering could do as a degree for you. So if you were to imagine a world without engineers, that means no buildings, no bridges, no cell phones, no life-saving devices, no medicine to heal us, no transportation. Life is pretty good in this moment, but engineers work every day to make our lives better than what they are right now. Engineers improve our environment, our technology, and our medicine. They build solutions to solve our problems and to make the world a better place. So if you want to work on a team to solve problems, then engineering would be a great degree for you to consider, and we do hope that you apply to UBC Engineering. So thank you so much. Here are some links on the screen for you to review. It also has Kyle's email as well as my email listed on the screen. So if you do have further questions about UBC Engineering at either the Vancouver campus or Okanagan campus, you are welcome to send us an email. If you have very specific admissions questions, I will suggest that you do go to the you.ubc.ca website and use the contact form for admissions. So Kyle and I are not admissions advisors ourselves, but we do work with kind of admissions into UBC Engineering specifically. But when it comes to specific criteria on my school offers this particular course, will this course be considered as part of whatever, those very, very specific questions that come up, that would be a really great question to send directly to our admissions team, and they'll be able to get you a faster response than Kyle or I would be able to get you. So just wanted to mention that. We have our websites on there for lots more information. And then I do always recommend that if you want to know anything more about the student experience, to definitely check out our Engineering Stories channel. I have the YouTube up here. We also have an Instagram and a TikTok channel. There are students from the Okanagan and Vancouver campus this year that really highlight their experiences as current engineering students and kind of showcase what life is like. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into UBC Engineering and the application process. And a huge thank you to Kyle for being here to present with me as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.